if we Bitcoiners are right, and I think we are, right? But like, if this is going to become the future world money, right? Then if you don't get involved at year 15 of the future of world money, you kind of miss pretty much the biggest thing that's going to change the world economy, going forward. I don't see anything that's going to be bigger than that. The difference between you not getting involved now and getting involved 20 years from now is, it's going to be completely night or day.
Fred Krueger is a renowned crypto analyst and Bitcoin maximalist with a PhD in math from Stanford University. Fred is a strong proponent of the Bitcoin power law, a theory popularized by former physics professor Giovanni Santostasi. According to Giovanni, the power law model for predicting Bitcoin's price is more easily understood and predictable, as it shows the correlation between price and time. The former physics professor, using the model, has arrived at a prediction of $10 million per Bitcoin by 2045. In a recent post on social media platform X, Fred argued that Bitcoin is currently undervalued, especially when we consider the unprecedented demand coming through the spot Bitcoin ETFs. His post reads, 69K Bitcoin in November 2021 is very different from 69K Bitcoin in April 2024. In November 2021, the power law fair value was 24.5K. We were trading at 2.8x that. In log terms, that's about 1.6 standard deviations. That's very expensive. Today, the power law model fair value is 64K. We are at 8% over fair value. That's just 0.1 standard deviation. I would argue that with the ETF, we are now very cheap in fundamental terms. In another post, Fred draws attention to the correlation between the flows coming through the ETFs and Bitcoin's price. He notes that Bitcoin's price is currently showing some weakness due to the decrease in demand for the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Fred also highlights the impact of numerous forced liquidations, which have dampened demand from Wall Street. Despite these challenges, he remains optimistic, suggesting that prices only need a brief recovery before the demand resumes in full force. Fred recently had an interview with Bram Kanstein, during which he discussed the Bitcoin power law and why it is important for everyone to be invested in the leading cryptocurrency. According to the renowned Bitcoin investor, Bitcoin will be the foundation of the next global monetary system. So, the best time to invest in it was 15 years ago, and the next best time is now. As we bring you clips from the interview, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
I think there's a couple things that Bitcoin does much better than regular money, right? And the first thing I think it does is it allows your money to be held in custody by yourself and moved wherever you want, right? And, if you have euros and you move to America, your euros are basically useless. We do not accept the euro over here, right?
Yeah.
The dollar, my dollars in Netherlands are pretty useless, But Bitcoin is this unit where I can hold my Bitcoin in a wallet, and I can take that wallet anywhere I want in the world, right? And that's a fundamentally new thing, and I think that's actually the killer app of Bitcoin, right? Is that it's sort of it's money that you can hold, and you can move around the world, right? That's the first thing. I think it's just, and nothing has this, because fiat really has to be stored in a bank account, right?
Yeah.
And then there's some third party that's kind of gating it. Bitcoin can be stored, just in a wallet, right? And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, I can send Bitcoin anywhere to anybody, anywhere in the world without an intermediary either, right? So I don't need a checkbook to send it. I don't need a wire to send it. I can send it to anybody in the world. And again, that's a really new thing, right? Now, other cryptocurrencies have that capability, as they have the capability of the wallet, right? But I would think those two things are the things that are the biggest capabilities of crypto in general, right? And then the third thing is this sort of finite supply, right? So, it cannot be debased. And I think between those things, I think you have something that is extremely powerful. And it's extremely powerful for people to keep their money out of the reach of the government.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the biggest, that's the core driver of Bitcoin's growth. Number one driver is I want to take my money and I want to move it outside of the banking system. I want to move it outside of the government system. If we're right, if we Bitcoiners are right, and I think we are, right? But if this is going to become the future world money, if you don't get involved at year 15 of the future of world money, you kind of miss pretty much the biggest thing that's going to change the world economy, going forward. I don't see anything that's going to be bigger than that, right? Because if the entire money supply changes to a world where we're running Bitcoin, and if that happens within the next, say, 20 years, well, the difference between you not getting involved now and getting involved 20 years from now is, it's going to be completely night or day. A lot of people in Europe sort of believe that the government's going to take care of them, right? Like, the government's going to provide my pension. The government's going to do this. Government's going to take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's probably an incorrect assumption. We're seeing that in the same thing in the U.S. Government's going to pay for my Social Security. No, the government's not going to. There will not be any Social Security. That's just a lie. And those Medicare benefits and the Social Security benefits are not. They do not have money for that.
Mm.
And so the system is kind of bankrupt, but we're all pretending that it's not.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be a fundamental change to the system, and that change is coming, and Bitcoin's going to be part of that change, right?
The United States currently has over $34 trillion in debt and another $175 trillion in unfunded off-balance sheet debt. Last month, the Congressional Budget Office released a report projecting a $1.5 trillion deficit for 2024. However, experts warn that at this rate, the deficit for the entire year will be at least $2.2 trillion, a 47% overshoot, which is even higher than the CBO's $2.054 trillion estimate for 2031. Reacting to the heavily flawed CBO estimate and the out-of-control government spending, Fred wrote in a post on X, "We're driving without any financial controls whatsoever, and regardless of who is elected, it's going to get worse next year. More student debt forgiveness and green projects under Biden, tax cuts under Trump. It's going to be money printing on steroids. The only two remedies are gold and Bitcoin will do much better." During his interview with Bram, Fred speaks further about why he believes Bitcoin is a superior asset and why short-term price is a deceptive judge of its real value. Here are more clips from the video.
I think part of the thing is, look, it's hard without looking at sort of quantitative numbers of how much this is catching on, and that's one of the things I've been kind of doing on Twitter recently is I really been focusing on kind of trying to explain to people about these power laws, and not just about power laws of price, but like power laws of adoption, right? So, Bitcoin at the end of the day, it is growing almost exponentially. It's growing like a weed. 25% a year, there's more Bitcoin users every year. And it doesn't matter whether price is going up or down, the usage is increasing, right? And there's all these ways of measuring that. You can measure people who have 1 Bitcoin, or people who have 1/10 of a Bitcoin, or addresses that have 1/100th of a Bitcoin, or even addresses that have 10 Bitcoin. And you see these things are growing at sort of a geometric rate. This is also growing in terms of price. It's also growing in a very consistent way, but it's a little harder to really appreciate and understand that because it's happening in this logarithmic kind of way. And we have very bad intuition for logarithmic growth. if you ask most people who are not in Bitcoin, or even people who are in Bitcoin, you say, explain the price of Bitcoin. They'd be like, well, there was back in the day, a long, long time ago, Bitcoin was really cheap, right? Like you were saying, right? 2013, it was like a couple $100, right? You can buy Bitcoin for $200, right? And then so there was this prehistory where it was very cheap, and then in 2017, it kind of went from $1,000 to $20,000, right? Almost 20,000. Then it crashed, and then it was like dead, and then it went in late 2020. It rose again from the dead, and it went to $60,000, and then it stayed there for about a year. It went down and went back up. It hit 60,000, 69,000 in the second peak. Then it crashed. And then it did nothing for 3 years. It died. And then last year it went back up. Well, that doesn't sound like a straight line at all. But if you look at it on logarithmic space and you say, great, let's look at the logarithm of Bitcoin price, right? Which the logarithm is a good way that you can put a graph of Bitcoin price over a very wide time scale, right? So from when Bitcoin was at 10 cents, right? So the logarithm is -1 at 10 cents, right? To right now where Bitcoin, let's say it's roughly $100,000, not quite 100,000 yet, but 100,000 would be 10 to the power 6. So the logarithm of it in base 10 is 6. So you went from -1 to +6, right?
Yeah.
So you look at that. And now the trick is look at time also on a logarithmic basis. So look at time starting at the Genesis block and 15 years from there. So 10 years, that's 1, right? Because 10 to the power 1, 10 to the power 1 is 10, right? And so, you start at 0, you go to a little bit beyond 1. Now you're at, 1.4, right? Or 1.3. So if you look at time that way and the logarithm of price, now you see, whoa, it's a complete straight line.
Yeah.
It's very clear. Once you see it, you're like, I can't unsee that. It's completely a straight line. And now it wobbles around the straight line, but it's very clear that it's growing linearly. Not possible that it's random, right?
On Saturday, Bitcoin's price dropped below $62,000 for the first time in almost a month. As of press time, the leading crypto asset has lost almost 10% in a month and about 8% in the past week. During Saturday morning's trading sessions, Bitcoin hovered around $67,000 before plunging below $62,000 and subsequently losing around 7.7% within 3 hours. With the rapid price decrease, there was almost $1 billion in total liquidations across the cryptocurrency landscape. Hourly liquidations from long positions in Bitcoin alone saw $167.13 million wiped out. Prices have since recovered, and Bitcoin is back above $64,000 per coin. Please share your thoughts on Fred's interview and the recent price declines in the cryptocurrency space. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.